Hello, friends from Sacagawea. This is Ms. Warner again with a little bit more reading from Front Desk by Kelly Yang. This time I'm going to be reading chapter 7 to you, and there will be a short assignment that will be posted on my course page on Schoology. So if you want to go there to get the assignment, you're welcome to do that. And if you want to, submit it to me and let me know, what you're thinking about the ideas that I've asked you to write about. All right, so here you go. Chapter 7. I tried not to think about stupid Mr. Yao and Jason the rest of the day, but it was extremely difficult. How could they just change the terms on us like that? Now, whenever a customer returned the key, instead of getting $5, we were getting hardly anything. I counted the keys in my hand. There were 8 there. I knew I had checked in 12 people yesterday. The other keys must still be in the rooms. I hopped off the stool and went out the back to investigate. I found 3 of the keys in the rooms. The customer just left them there and went on their way, but I could not find the key to room 9. I looked everywhere, but there was absolutely no key in the room, and the customer was long gone. Did they accidentally take the key? I walked over to the laundry room where my parents were washing the towels and sheets. It was this big room way in the back of the motel, which had an industrial washing machine and dryer that ran 24/7 and made this awful grinding noise, like it was drying metal screws and not sheets. Over the noise, I could hear my parents talking. "Please, sir, we still really want the job," my mom mimicked my dad. "Why didn't you just kneel before him?" "Fine. You want to quit? Let's quit," my dad said. "Let's call him right now and quit." "You know we can't quit," my mom said. "Mia's starting school tomorrow." At the sound of my name, I thought about turning around and leaving. I hated hearing my parents argue. They hadn't really done it in China, but ever since we came to America, it was getting harder and harder to avoid. I cleared my throat. "Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad." "Mia," my dad said, spinning around. He tried to look all happy, like he hadn't just been fighting. "We were just talking," he said. "I wanted to say to them, it's okay. You argue sometimes. I get it." "Room 9 left, but he didn't leave his key," I told them. "What should I do?" "Wait, so there's no key?" "Well, there's the master key," I reminded them, "but I can't give that one out." "All right, let me see what we can do," my mom said. My mom followed me out of the laundry room. When we got back to the front desk, we opened up all the cabinets. We eventually found a white box buried in the back of a drawer with the words "Official Spare Keys" in permanent marker. My mom took the box out and opened it. Sure enough, there were 30 official spare keys inside, one for each room. "Here's the one for room 9, I said, picking it up and clutching it in my hand. "Great," my mom said. I was about to hang the key on its little hook next to all the other keys when it occurred to me. We couldn't give this key out. This was our only spare key. What if someone took it? My mom sighed. We had no choice but to call Mr. Yao. As my mom explained the situation to him over the phone, I tried to squeeze in next to her to hear. "What's he saying?" I asked, but my mom just shook her head. I went over to my room and picked up the extension just in time to hear Mr. Yao exclaim, "What kind of idiot doesn't charge a deposit on the key?" That would be me. For the record, I didn't charge a deposit on the keys because, well, who charges a deposit on keys? Deposits were for renting bikes and cars. Why would anyone want to steal a key? Mr. Yao told my mom we had to make a new key with the key machine underneath the front desk. My mom and I knelt down to look for it. We finally found it in the way back. It wasn't actually much of a machine, more like an assortment of blank keys, needles, pens, and files with a big metal thing to keep the key in place as you worked on it. Leave it, my mom said. After I finish cleaning all the rooms, I'll make the key. Until then, don't touch it, okay? Do not try to make it. I nodded and waited until she went out the back. Any adult who says the words, "Don't touch," to a kid should know it's an open invitation to touch it. I accepted my mom's invitation and picked up one of the blank keys. Holding it up to the spare room 9 key with all its little ridges and valleys, I wondered, were we supposed to file the ridges and valleys? Was that how this worked? I gently ran the file against the blank key. To my surprise, it made a little dent. I ran the file again. Another dent. Hey, this wasn't so bad. I didn't even need the metal thing to clamp the key down. I could do it just by holding the key. I filed and filed. With each new dent, I sang, "Look at me! I'm making a key." I was having so much fun that I forgot to look at where I was filing and accidentally filed my finger. "Ow!" I cried. I dropped the file and the key and held my throbbing finger. The skin of my index finger had been rubbed raw and it was bleeding. I ran to the bathroom to get a Band-Aid, but there weren't any. So I took some toilet paper and wrapped it around my finger. The toilet paper turned bright red in seconds. I grabbed more toilet paper and held it to the wound, even though it hurt like crazy. Eventually, the bleeding stopped. I wrapped the toilet paper in Scotch tape around and around. With my tiny mummy finger all set, I sat back down at the front desk and glanced at the unfinished keys. I should have stopped right there. I should have put the key away and waited for my mom. That would have been the sensible thing to do. But I had this thing where if I started something, I had to finish it. It didn't matter what it was. Books, Chinese chess, or the last strawberry on the candied skewers I used to eat back home. When I started something, I finished it. And so I picked up the blank key again. With my gigantic finger held high out of the way, I started filing. 10 minutes later, I was done. It wasn't perfect, I'll admit, and it wasn't pretty by any standard, but when I held the spare to the blank, it had all the same ridges and valleys. As I stood back to admire my creation, a customer came in. "Got any rooms in the back?" he asked. I did indeed, and proudly handed him my new key. "What the hell?" the customer yelled, ringing the office a couple of minutes later. "The key you gave me doesn't work." As it turned out, though, I had filed the ridges to perfection. I had forgotten to smooth out the edges, so when the customer put the key in, it got stuck. I rushed out the back to help him. We pushed and we pulled. Finally, we managed to jam it into the doorknob and unlock the room. When the customer laid eyes on the room, his face fell. "This is a lot smaller than what I was expecting," he said. I looked around the room. There was a bed, dresser, television, small table, and chair. It was modest, sure, but what else did he need? Why don't you get settled in and I'll come back in 10 minutes and I'll give you a new key? I asked. Mr. Lewis looked like he still wasn't sure about the room and the whole stuck key thing, so I threw in, and I'll bring you a free soda. How's that? He perked up and said, okay. As I walked back to the front desk, I shook my head. Why was it that everything in America had to do with money? People wouldn't give you back your key unless you charged them a deposit. They'd hold a simple mistake over your head unless you gave them a free soda. At my old school in China, there was this kind of elderly man who lived near the building. Every day, he'd give me a popsicle on my way home in exchange for telling him what I learned in school that day. That was it. No money, no credit cards, just, hey, how was school? I sighed. I missed Popsicle Grandpa. There was no one like that here. Here, everything had a price, even kindness. No sooner had I gotten back to the front office than Mr. Lewis called me back to his room. Come back! Come back right now, he said into the phone. From the urgency in his voice, I thought it was a real emergency. Had the smoke alarm gone off? Did the television explode? I rushed back to room 9 and found Mr. Lewis standing in the bathroom, staring at the trash can. Do you see that? He asked, pointing at the small plastic trash can under the sink in the bathroom. I stared into the black bin. I couldn't see anything. See what? That! He shouted. He picked up the trash can and shoved it in my face. I squinted into the darkness and saw what appeared to be a single, long string. It looked like dental floss. You see it? Mr. Lewis asked. Yes, I see it now, I said. This room has not been properly cleaned, Mr. Lewis said. I assure you it has. Clearly, it hasn't, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. I would like another room, a bigger room. Sir, all our rooms are the same size. Mr. Lewis crossed his arms and said, I don't believe you. I would like you to open up every single room and I will pick one for myself. That's when I lost it. Maybe it was my throbbing finger, or the 2 refunds, or Mr. Yao changing the deal, but I just couldn't control myself. Sir, that is ridiculous. You can't pick your own room. This isn't a salad bar. As soon as I said the words, I knew I had gone too far, but it was too late to snatch them back. Well, Mr. Lewis said, fuming, if that's the way it's going to be, then I would like a refund. No. Please, Mr. Lewis, I pleaded with him. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that thing about the salad bar. I don't know why I said that. I squeezed my eyes shut and confessed, I've never actually been to a salad bar. I've only seen them on TV. Mr. Lewis looked shocked. You've never seen a salad bar? I shook my head. His eyes softened. Why are you doing this? He asked me. Shouldn't you be out playing? I looked away from him. Why were Americans always asking kids to go out and play? In China, kids almost never played. They had to sit for exams starting at an early age. Except for family get-togethers, every minute after school was packed with homework, drilling, revision, and dictation. When I went to first grade in China, I got only 2 minutes a day to play. That's literally what it said on a schedule I made for myself. 5 o'clock to 5:02. Play. I wanted to say to Mr. Lewis that I'd never really played and I didn't intend to start now. The other part of me wanted to say, this is playing. I got to run a motel. Was there any better way to play? In the end, I simply said, I like my job very much. Mr. Lewis looked slightly embarrassed and said, of course you do. I'm sorry. He looked around the room once more. You know what? This will do just fine, he said. Really? I asked. I could not believe my ears. And I'm sorry I gave you such a hard time. Here, let me empty that for you, I said, taking the trash can from his hands. I went outside, quickly emptied the can in the dumpster, and placed it back in Mr. Lewis's bathroom. Is there anything I can do to make your stay more pleasant? I asked him. Mr. Lewis thought for a second, then he held up a finger and announced, pillows. Pillows? Yes, I need 4 pillows. 2 for under my head, 1 for between my legs, and 1 to hug. I smiled. Done. Okay, class, that is the end of chapter 7 of Front Desk. Remember, you can go to our Schoology page and find the assignment for this week and go ahead and do the assignment and submit it to me, and I'll take a look at what you've done. So thanks so much for listening today, and I hope you have a great week.